Roger, go for deploy.
Alrighty, welcome back to Adventure Fit Radio, guys. Here is a show today with comedian, where this has been a long day for us. We've done a lot of podcasting. With comedian Adam Rozenbachs.
Is it Rozenbach as in Johann Sebastian Bach, or is it back as in, oh, there's a pimple on my back?
It's Adam Rozenbach.
As in Rosen... As...
No, it's
Adam
not.
Rozenbach.
So Adam Rozenbachs, it was a sick show. Had a ball talking to him. Talked about all the ins and outs of his growing up in the comedy scene, how he goes about it. We just talked a whole heap of shit, but it was really funny and really
fun.
awesome.
Totally.
Had a great time. So you guys are going to love it.
Yep.
The show's brought to you by audibletrial.com/ADVF radio. Also, guys, we're brought to you by Adventure Fit Travel. So check out adventurefittravel.com. With Audible, you're going to get free. If you go to that link that I told you, you're going to get a free audiobook and a 30-day trial, which is awesome. With Adventure Fit Travel, you're going to get head to that website, our website there, and you'll find all your trips, all your vlogs, all your podcasts, all your goodies from us. So they're our two sponsors. Anything from you, Tommy? Lion King.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
No, nothing from me.
All right, sweet. We're out from Pride Rock. Here's the show. Alrighty, gang. Welcome back to Adventure Fit Radio. We are sitting here with Adam Rozenbachs. Rosie, he's a stand-up comedian from Australia. Before we swing to Rosie, I've got Tommy with me as usual.
Just
and
playing
we're gonna
some songs back in the background.
Going to start us off with Tommy's tribute.
Cool. Alrighty, Rosie, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks.
This is a cover of Under the Milky Way tonight. I've always wanted to play this on the show, and I haven't yet, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
All right. Sometimes when the crowd gets kind of empty, sound of the lack of laughter there, I think about all the guys that couldn't save the sitch, and that's why we've got Rosie on the show. Adam's the man you go to when you're down. He'll turn this fucking frown upside down. And I can't wait to banter with this man. I was watching you last night on the can. Rosie, welcome to the show. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Haunting.
Yeah, very haunting.
Very haunting.
And
that was great. Thank you for that.
slightly erotic.
Slightly. The bit about the can was.
Yeah, that's right.
Alrighty. So, Rosie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, mate? Bit of backstory. Who are you?
Oh, man, I'm a stand-up comedian. I've been doing stand-up for about 17 years now. Write for television shows. Just comedy's my life, basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So where did that all come from? What got you into comedy?
I mean, as a kid, I always loved, comedy shows and watching, anything that was funny on the telly. And then when I was about 16, I reckon my dad took me to see Billy Connolly.
Yep.
And I just remember I think he talked for like 2.5 hours. And that just blew my mind. And the people were losing their minds, like I think it was at Hamer Hall here in Victoria. And it was about 2,500 people just losing their shit the whole time. And just remember being blown away by that. And even at that stage of my life, I knew I loved the idea of it, but I didn't think that was something that was achievable for, me. And then, just started doing sort of community radio, and that's how I got into radio, then into stand-up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the guy, like it's kind of like the guy that's not quite cut out to be a rock star. It's like the closest thing to being a rock star up on stage, having the 2,500 people laughing with you eating out of the palm of your hands. Would you agree? Like, there's a big draw to be up on that stage and really having that energy and everybody loving you and laughing along.
Oh,
and
totally.
It must be
It's a huge adrenaline rush.
huge rush,
amazing.
yeah.
It's incredible. And you say, like, they're not rock and roll stars, and, you know, I wouldn't put myself in that category, but there are comedians now who do stadium tours.
Yeah.
You know, like,
it's insane.
like Kevin Hart, I think, did Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne. And that's what they do in the States. And you just kind of go... You always think that stand-up is like an intimate thing. You know, you need to see the face of the person. But these are, you know, 12,000, 20,000 seat arenas like in London and across the States. It's just completely changed. And I think the internet has made everyone more accessible. So people who like something, it's not like a niche thing anymore.
Yeah,
Exactly.
People just go crazy for it.
Do you ever get someone says, you know, like, oh, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm a comedian. They go, oh, yeah, tell us a joke.
So many times.
What's your best joke?
Yeah, they'll be like, tell us a
like.
joke. And I don't do jokey jokes.
Knock.
Yeah.
Knock, knock. Fuck off, mate.
Yeah. I don't do jokes like that. And the worst one, though, is when they're like, oh, I've got a joke for you. Like, oh, fuck, here we go. And you don't want to hear it, and I don't have a really good fake laugh, so it's really obvious that I haven't enjoyed it. It's like,
It's like instantly someone walks up, hey, man, I got a joke for you. Like, oh, fuck, I'm not going to be friends with this guy.
Yeah.
Already, I hate you.
And you kind of know a lot of those old jokes, even if you haven't heard it. You know the rhythm of it. You know where it's going. So you're about 30
must be
seconds
so
in, you're like,
annoying.
oh God, I know where this is going, dude. You know? You don't do that with anyone else.
No, exactly right.
Like you don't go up to a doctor and go, oh, you know, I read this story about an operation I read about. You're like, who cares?
Yeah, that's so
Give us a look at your wrist. Look, you say, sore? You want me to fix it?
Yeah.
I reckon I can fix it. Yeah, cool. So who started the? You're talking about Kevin Hart. Who started the stand-up comedian superstardom? Was it Eddie Murphy was one of the first guys, or Richard Pryor before him, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess through eras it was, and Eddie Murphy was obviously big, but they were playing theatres, so I think that was available to comedians all through that era, through the 70s, through the 80s in the States and stuff, but to get to stadiums,
that's
I
different
reckon
again,
it might
isn't
have been like even someone like Dane Cook, who was huge on the college circuit and took it to that next level of doing shows in the round, and, you know, probably even Louis C.K. Like, I'm not, you know, huge up to... Like, I'm not a super nerd about every comedian that's come through.
Yeah.
But I reckon, I think it was, what's his name? Michael...
Jackson?
Not quite. I mean, he's very funny.
He's a funny guy.
He's a very funny guy. No, there's a Michael McIntyre in the UK who started doing gigs at Wembley.
Right.
You know, and not many people do gigs at Wembley. I mean, you know, unless you're U2 or something like that. You know, you just play football.
That's right.
That's it.
So who were your comedy idols growing up? Who did you look at? You said Billy Connolly. Who did you look at and you're like, this guy's he's piss funny.
In Australia, I always loved
He's funny.
Yeah, I never understood that. I suppose if you are laughing and you wet yourself, that's pretty good, isn't it? I don't know if anyone...
There you go. That's right.
But the
never laughed that
term
hard, so.
implies to me that it's like you look at piss and you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. But then wouldn't it be like, wouldn't shit funny be funnier?
Shit funny's a
Well, we
way
can use
funnier.
that.
Yeah.
We can use that.
I've lost my shit.
Guys, welcome to Adventure Radio. We got the shit funny comedian Adam Rozenbachs on the show
That's
today.
funny.
I suppose you do say I've lost my shit. So
Yeah,
That's
there you
true.
go.
Yeah, it's all about the bodily functions. In Australia, I was a big
Jizz
fan
funny.
of. I'd love to be jizz funny.
Sorry. I thought say it. No, don't say it because
No,
we told so many dick jokes. We had a gymnast on before, and we just kept talking. We just kept
It wasn't
saying,
appropriate.
but he wasn't laughing along.
Right,
He just
okay.
like keep talking about like
power through.
static holds of like, and we're like, yeah, what about your dick? Like, it just didn't make any sense.
No, he's got to relax.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So in Australia, I was a big fan of the D Generation,
Okay.
which was like
yeah.
The Late Show, and which became, you know, sort of
Fantastic.
Working Dog and
Yes.
Mark Malloy. And
Those guys are great.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of those guys. Who else? And then, like, when I started getting into stand-up, Dave Hughes was just starting to, you know, hit his peak. And so, you know, he's a good friend of mine, and he's a great stand-up, and always learn a lot from him. And but in terms worldwide, there's a comedian I love called Norm Macdonald, who's a Canadian who used to be on Saturday Night Live, and he's just so fucking edgy. And he got kicked off Saturday Night Live because he just wouldn't hold back. And I just love that. I love the darker kind of comedy and, you know, really edgy stuff that pushes the boundaries. Makes me laugh.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever had reactions from a crowd where it's like, oh, I've stepped the mark here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and you learn that really quick. In your early days, you kind of have no no real censorship about your stuff. You just go, I'll just say it. And, I think it's funny. But then you learn to read different audiences, and you learn that some audiences can't handle the black stuff.
Yeah.
They see it as really literal. And so you can get away with one or two cheeky things if you do it. But if you constantly do it, you'll lose them, and then you can't get them back. And
it's true.
So it's up to you. If you want to keep doing it, that's fine. But if you're happy to sit in a room of complete and utter silence, then go for it. If you're cool with that.
When you when you talk about losing a crowd, is it something that you might even tailor a set so that you start off with a certain way of of shaping your jokes, and then you start to filter in the dirtier stuff and the more controversial stuff? Or
you do. You start off strong. You want them on side, so you want to try and win them over as quick as you can, and that way they go, oh yeah, we trust this guy. We know it can be funny,
for sure,
and they can be friendly. If it's your festival show, you can be a little bit different about it because they're paid to come see you and you alone. So you're a bit more. I don't know. You got a bit more freedom.
They're your fans.
Yeah, and they've come to see you. Whereas if you're in just a normal comedy room and you come out and you're really harsh, and they go, oh God, we're not into this, it's really hard to win them back because they'll just kind of switch off and go, there's going to be someone else coming out. We'll probably like them more next or whatever. And if it's too dark, you just I would say the general population are not into really dark black humour, the way that sort of you and your mates might be, or stuff that you can get away with. Like, if anyone ever if they found your phone and read all your texts out. Exactly. Yeah, everyone would be in trouble. And that's the stuff that you can't really say on stage. Not that you would, but you might be able to drop one in and get like a bit of a ooh. But if you keep doing it, I reckon you're going to find yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
Dude, I live in fear of my phone being found. Like,
I think we all do.
Yeah, I'm in a WhatsApp group with some mates, and it's like every now and again everyone's like, clear. It's time for a clean out.
So true.
It's just safer.
So what does the writing process actually look like? So
for a
stand-up, do you like firstly, two questions. How long does that material kind of last? And do you write an hour and then that's your show for a while? And is that...
Yeah, so what will happen is, and it's kind of the process now, so the Melbourne International Comedy Festival is where I kind of aim for the new hour, and that's in about March, April. So I'll start writing about this time of year, which is August, start jotting down ideas, anything that I see that I think's funny, write it down, then I'll start fleshing it out a little bit. Then you start putting it out on stage. Because a lot of times when you're just writing on your laptop, it just gets very wordy.
Yeah.
And it's not until you're out on stage and you're like, oh, you got to cut to the point. There's way too many words in this. So you start paring stuff back. But that doesn't happen until you start saying it out loud. And then you build chunks together. And probably the most difficult thing is when you're trying out new materials, you only get like 10, 15-minute blocks to do it. So you can't do it from start to finish.
That's true.
Yeah, that's right.
Until towards the end when you'll do a couple of trial shows. And even then, it's not until you're under the sort of cut and thrust of the lights of the opening night where you're like, all right, this is the first time I've done this from start to finish for an hour.
Really?
And then out of that hour, if you can get about half an hour that you can take around the circuit, because a lot of stuff that happens in a festival show, you can kind of set the scene a little bit more. They're there for the whole journey. You can have a bit of a story arc, so you can call back to stuff that happened 25 minutes ago and go, remember when I talked about that?
Yep.
Whereas when you're in a comedy room and you've got 20 minutes, you can't.
Yeah.
So you just sort of trim the fat off that, pull out the best bits. So if you can get half an hour out of an hour show, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of like that's your 1 hour that you'll do that every year pretty much. And So are you like seeing something on the TV and you're like, oh, that's a funny concept, put it in your phone, and then do you actually sit down at night and write in front of a computer and do you stand in front of a mirror and rehearse it to yourself before you're trying to get a feel for it, or?
No, but one thing that I have, so I'll write it out on a computer and just sort of try and add some extra jokes to it while I'm going. And another thing that is a sort of technique I taught myself recently was to start like walking around my house as though I'm on stage. Like I never look at myself in the mirror because I just go, I don't give a fuck what I look like.
Yeah.
But I'll walk around as though I'm on stage, and it kind of gets you in that zone of being out there. So you're a bit more like, oh, okay, how would I make this work if I had to think of my feet right now and think of a joke? How would I do it? And that kind of has helped my writing process. And then what I'll do once it's all on the computer is I'll type it out and then so print it out and then go away, sit in a cafe and just handwrite jokes and stuff out and try and flesh it out that way. Right. Just so you're not stuck at your desk and chained down and just get away from it,
And the walking around, I suppose, because there's a lot of comedians that are very You know,
Up
it's
and
all
about.
about
Robert
all
Williams
about,
and,
yeah,
you know.
but it's
Yeah.
all about you're able to flow more, I suppose, and get more
Yeah.
into your gags if you're actually using your body a lot more.
I think so, yeah. And everyone has their own style too, you know. It's really weird. Like some comedians will stand in front of the microphone and not move, right?
Yeah.
You know, they've got both hands free and they'll stand there. And I don't like doing that because, and this is really weird, I feel like the audience is staring at me.
Yeah.
And I feel really
in many ways, they
unprotected.
probably are.
But they are when the microphone's out of the mic stand. But I feel like my arm is like a barrier. When I'm holding the microphone, I just feel this kind of safety.
Really?
Yeah, but standing there in front of just a mic stand is just really
Claustrophobic,
for me,
kind of.
awkward. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
it's a weird thing.
interesting.
And you develop your own kind of styles as you go, and everyone's completely different. And you pick up little things from other people. You go, oh, that works really well. But I kind of work in like say a 10-meter radius. I don't go too far left and right, whereas other comics will use the full width of the stage.
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
kind of go, yeah, that looks like fun.
So how much traveling do you do as a comic? Like, are you international? You do regional circuits in Victoria? How's it work for you?
Yeah, so after the comedy festival, they do a thing called the roadshow. So they take like 5 comics around regional Australia, and you know there'll be one tour going in WA, one in Far North Queensland, one through New South Victoria, all that sort of thing, all through different states. So the last couple of years, I did Far North Queensland,
Yep.
and then did all through Queensland, which was great. And the thing with those, they're kind of they're regions that are starved for entertainment. So when you go up there, they come out, they love the show. You're in massive theatres. You're in like 1,500-seater theatres
Really?
and stuff. Oh, they're fantastic. And these people are out for a good night. So you just walk out and just this roar is immense.
Probably
It's, like,
probably
fantastic.
definitely a few cans deep.
Yeah, oh mate, these dudes in
Real bins.
These dudes in Mackay. So I was emceeing, and I'd brought the first act on, and I went out to get beer from the foyer, and these guys had been cut off and kicked out. First act, so we're like 25 minutes in, and they'd already been cut off, and then they see
Cut
me-
off?
Yeah,
What do you mean?
from the bar and kicked
Oh,
out.
yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
Kicked
right.
out at the venue. This is 25 minutes into the show.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And they see me walk out, and they're like, "Oh, you're that guy on stage," and I'm like, "Yeah, I just came to get a beer." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we thought you were a faggot, but you're really funny." And I was like, "Oh my god, what am I doing?" Yeah. I was like, "Oh god, I don't know what that means." So I'm just going to go backstage.
You should have said, "Oh, thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
I've been working really hard on that set."
Yeah, give them a pash. It was like-
Yeah, cool. So
And internationally, I've done a few gigs. Like in London and stuff like that, but I haven't really pursued it, so not heaps.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
Is that something you want to work towards doing, the
I'd
international?
love to, yeah. If I had the right agent, I think it's really hard to get solid gigs in the States. Like, it's already hard. There's so many people over there that, you know, they don't want to see some guy just swan in and take their spot. So I think if you were based in New York for a few months, it would be fantastic to just, you know, hit the circuit and just see what it's like.
Yeah, cool. Have you got any aspirations to do that? I know that was kind of nearly what you just asked, but like, is that actually on the
You
radar?
replaced
or-
aspiration with goal, so I mean, that's fine. It's a different question.
I mean, I would love to do it. It's just something that it's not on my radar.
Yeah, cool.
But ultimately, like, if you're successful enough over here, like Will Anderson does tours in the States for 6 months a year, and Ronnie Chang's just got hooked
Yeah,
up with
Ronnie
the Daily
Chang's
Show.
good.
So yeah,
He's great.
Yeah, so he'll kill it in the States now, you know, because he's got a profile over there,
Yep.
which helps no end, you know,
For sure.
Yeah.
So what about so going back to you kind of growing up as a comic and finding your feet?
Yeah.
Tell us a story about like your first couple of times on stage and if and what it felt like if you
Yeah.
really fucking
Nerves
bombed.
and
Oh, dude. So basically, because I did radio for 3 years before I did stand-up, so I got the confidence with my writing before I was on stage. So there's a real safety net when you're on radio because you're doing the jokes, you're doing it with a couple of people in a room, but there's no immediate audience. So you can think to yourself, oh, yeah, I'm pretty funny. But
We think that all the time, but we suck.
yeah, well, you're laughing at each other. And that's
Bloke
all you
next to
need.
me who's pretty much paid to laugh. He reckons I'm hilarious.
Yeah.
It's that.
So I got that confidence with the writing, and then the next step was to get on stage. And I used to go to stand-up all the time because I loved it. And, you know, I got to know a lot of comics and stuff, and they would be like, dude, you just got to get on stage. So I entered Triple J's Raw competition, which is their new comics comp. And I thought, if I enter that, I can't back out of it.
Yeah.
And my first gig was at the Esplanade Hotel in St Kilda.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to do 5 minutes, right? And 5 minutes now, if I have to do 5 minutes, I'm thinking, how the fuck do I just do 5 minutes?
Yeah.
But back then I was like, how the fuck do I do 5 minutes? And so the first gig, when I raced through it, it went amazingly well. Like, just killed.
Yeah.
And it was just the best feeling I've ever had in my life. The relief, just the excitement was unbelievable. I was so proud. You know, I did the gig, was really happy with it. And then I had a gig booked again the next week, same room, did exactly the same material and tanked.
Really? So
everything
audience,
was the same.
Was it the audience or?
I reckon whenever you do new material, and I've found that, like even doing it now, you have this excitement that you'll never recapture, which is why when you do it, you got to record it just so you know exactly how you said stuff, the excitement that you have in it, and just so you go, oh, this is how I repeat it. And I mustn't have had that energy. I must maybe have gone, because after the first one, I was like, oh, this stand-up thing's fucking easy. You know, I don't know what everyone whinges about.
Yeah.
And then the second one, I found out just a reality check was incredible.
Wow.
Had that been reversed, I don't know if I could have got up again if I'd tanked so heavily the first one.
Yes.
So that first one gave me the real taste of it and the bug. And then the second one, I was like, oh, I don't know if I could do this. And oh man, it was. And I remember even being halfway through, I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what are you actually thinking at the time?
Like,
how do you?
what-
How do you? I imagine
panic.
I imagine every time you say a joke that you're like, this one will get me out. This one will get me out of the woods.
Yeah,
and then it snowballs probably.
Well, you got nowhere to go because you got no other material to go to.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, I'll go to my goal. It's like, I'm putting it out there. This is all I have. It's horrific.
Yeah.
It's so bad. I mean, the worst, particularly when you're starting out, like when you, a lot of comedians you'll see they have it written on their hand, like when you're starting out, and they're always like, oh, should I do it? I'm like, yeah, do it. It doesn't matter. They know they're seeing new comics.
Yep.
It's not a big deal. But when you forget what the joke's supposed to be, and like 5 seconds feels like a minute. It's just, and you're just staring, and you are just blank. Like you've never seen anything so blank in your life. And it's just an horrific feeling. You're just like, oh, I have no idea what this is. And everyone's there just going, come on, get it, find it, find it.
Yeah.
Come on, Rosie.
Yeah, it's it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's such a horrible feeling.
How do you recover from something like that? You said the next time you went back on stage, what were you thinking?
So I mean, it's just a real reality check. You're like, it's not easy. You need to. That's the other thing too is when you make a mistake in your first couple of years, you take it so personally. Like every bad gig you take home and you sit on it for days and stuff. And then when you have a bad one, when you've been going for a while, you're like, oh, well, you know, maybe it was a shit audience. Maybe I was off that night.
Yeah.
But I'll
Just
move
blame
on.
them.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know this
Can't
stuff
take
works.
a joke.
Yeah. But when you first start out, you just it certainly cuts people away. Like because it's a really hard thing to get through and to back up. But and that kind of, you know, it's sort of like that natural selection. You know, it just gets rid of people who just can't handle it.
Yeah. Right.
Which is a good thing because you can't have everyone who's ever gotten on stage sticking around.
It's true.
So it's just, you know, naturally get rid of people who can't handle it. But I just remember there must have been a turning point where I was just like, you know what, you're pretty good at it. You're getting regular gigs. If you have a bad one, just move on with it. And, you know, you do enough gigs now that you can forget about it. Like if you had like 10 shockers in a row, you'd be like, fuck.
I'm not funny.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, particularly with new material, when you try that out and if it doesn't work a few times in a row, you really start to lose confidence in that material. It's really weird about new material is if you throw out a bit for the first time and it works, you will not let it go, right? You'll hang on to it for dear life. Whereas if you throw out a bit for the first time and it doesn't work very well, you'll give it like maybe 1-2 more goes. And if it doesn't go very well, you'll get rid of it. But you'll always have in your memory that the one that worked the first time, you never want to let go because you're like, oh, no, it's really good. But maybe you just got lucky.
Yeah, that energy that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Where everything's funny because you're just so up and about.
Yeah, whereas
right.
if it doesn't go well and you're like, well, maybe I didn't have that energy, but next time I will. So it's a really such a fine line of trying to hang on to something that might not work. And then other times you'll have things that you're like, there's something in there, but I can't crack it. And you just go, I've got to drop it. I'm trying, but it's just not working.
It also sounds like, I mean, if something's not funny, it also sounds like it's really personally devastating. I mean, for Bill and I, you know, we make shocking jokes. It's not funny at all, but to us it's hilarious. I just can't imagine being on stage, saying a joke that I think is hilarious and no one laughing. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? This is funny.
So what's good about podcasting? We've bombed, I swear to God, we've bombed so many times, but we don't know about it.
It's not shit.
Yeah, you can't see people deleting you from there.
Our downloads have actually slowed down the last 3 shows, so we might have to go and look into that.
Do you sort of get to that where it's just like, you're so passionate about something, you just want to You know, that,
absolutely. And there'll be jokes if it's in a festival show, you can afford to have a joke that you like that no one else really likes. You might get a couple of people who are onto it. And you just go, that's all right, that was for me.
Yeah.
If it's in your set every time, you just got to go, I got to cut this, you know? Because essentially, it's your job. You've been paid to perform.
Yeah.
And if you've got a lot of bits that, you know, are for you that's not working, you go, maybe I need to get rid of those.
Yeah,
you know?
it's not really about you, is it really? It's
Well,
about
no, you've been
the people
paid.
that are paid paying for the service, really. That's what you're providing.
Yeah.
What about the good jokes? You're talking about getting rid of the bad jokes. What about when you have to move on every year from this set? Is that like divorcing your children? Your best jokes, you know?
Yeah. It's a really weird thing because... I don't know how many people divorce their children.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I was wondering if anyone, I saw Tom look, I was wondering if anyone was going to go there.
I was like, what?
Yeah. You know when you get sick of your kids?
Oh, yeah.
You just divorce them.
Well, you know, of course, after you've married them, after you've married your daughter, of course.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
That's the normal part.
Yeah. That's the sexy part.
My daughter's
That's
hot.
the fun times. Yeah.
That's my fun.
It's always hard to let it go, but you know that you can do it in your stand on the circuit. So, but it's just one of those things is you don't want the audience coming back. They pay good money to see a repeat of stuff. You might drop in a joke or two that you go, oh fuck, I've added to that and made it better. But if it's just the same, if someone sees the same show year after year, they'll be pretty pissed off because they've wasted money. It's
Like your real fans.
Yeah, if you've changed the name if it's the same show, if it's the same name, fine, they understand what they're getting. But if you've given it a different name and then it's it's still The Hangover.
Yeah.
Then you just go, it's a bit of a cheat, and you can understand why people get disappointed by that. It's their hard-earned money. They've chosen you over someone else, so
yeah, for sure.
And that will probably burn them for a couple of years, I would imagine.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So what about when you're on stage? You're not bombing, but you're getting hecklers. Like that must happen a lot. What happened?
Yeah.
How do you address those guys?
I've got something to say about this as well.
Hecklers are kind of engaged, particularly if you're at a club night. You just because a lot of time people have had a few. They're with their mates. They think, oh, this is going to be good, and they'll yell something out. And then you just be like, what was that? And a lot of times what will happen is the comedian, firstly, I haven't heard it because I've been talking.
Yep.
So with the microphone on and the speakers coming through, all you hear is a noise.
Yeah.
And secondly, you can't exactly see where it's come from because when you're on stage and the light's on you, it's really dark out there.
It's like, what did you fucking
so you can see the first maybe couple of rows and you know like where it's come from, but you can't see who it's come from. So a lot of times you'll be like, what was that? Because it might be something you can have some fun with.
Yeah.
And that's when they'll be like, oh, fuck, he's come back to me. And then people won't say anything. You're like, oh, you don't want to chat now. You know, so you sort of shut them down like that. Or if they do want to chat, you just give them enough rope because sometimes people are that pissed.
Yeah.
And you keep asking them questions and then everyone around them is just like, mate, shut the fuck up. Yeah. So you put it on other people because if you turn on them, there's a really fine line again of being like a school teacher. It'd be like, can you guys shut up? And everyone's like, ooh, can't handle it.
Yeah, and you lose them.
Yeah, and you do lose them. So you just give it to them and let everyone else tell them to shut up. And that way you get everyone on side and it's fine.
And was it something that you had prepared for, or was it just the first heckling experience? You're like, oh, shit, I've got to get on this now.
Yeah, it's weird too because sometimes when you prepare for it, and I kind of don't. I don't have any of those shutdown lines that people have.
Yeah.
But if you prepare for it, you might go too hard for something. Someone might just yell out, I really like your shirt. You go, get fucked, idiot. Yeah.
I fucked your mum. Hey.
Married your daughter.
Stuff like that. I saw a guy, and even though we're divorced.
That's right.
Yeah.
I married my daughter.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw Husey do it once, actually, to a heckler. We were down at Rye Pub, which I grew up on the peninsula, St Andrews Beach. So you can imagine Rye Pub's like it's a pretty, some loose crew. And I was a tradie at the time. And I went down there with we had a big table, and I worked with a guy named Nath, and he was just a real Aussie bloke, drinks a shitload of Jack Daniels, one of those kind of guys, smokes a pack of day cigarettes. Oh. And he was just, don't know what he was saying, but he was drunk out of his mind, and he started into Husey, and Husey, we were right up close and personal, and there was probably not, I don't think there was light in Husey.
Yeah,
he could see
so
Nath and he engaged with Nath, and he just started ripping on Nath, and Nath started laughing, he started giving it back to Husey, but he could tell Nath, he could tell how Nath was going, how he was reacting to it, and he kind of made it a real highlight of the show. For Nath, specifically, because he could go, fucking, but also everyone else was having a great time. So I suppose there's always horses for courses, and Husey handled it really, really well in that particular instance for sure.
And I think most times you try and make it fun because that's what you're there for. You hang a bit of shit. His mates love it. He loves it because he's the centre of attention. It's just when there might be that fine line, or someone who, might be a guy who's happy to have a bit of fun, and then you take that one step too far, and he's like,
Michael Richards.
I'm going to kill you. Yeah. Oh, fuck.
You took it 5 steps too far.
Yes, that was insane. But I remember when I started out, and that the one thing I always say to new comics is go and watch a lot of comedy, so you see other people make the mistakes that you don't have to.
Yep.
And I saw this guy when I was starting out, and he had a heckle put down. He's like, I don't come down to where you work and order a McFuckwit, right? But
That's not bad, though.
But he had it preconceived, ready to go no matter what happened. Now, there was a thing...
That's really funny.
Yeah, at the SB in the early days called reverse heckling, whereas, like, if you weren't going very well, they'd tell people to yell out, really like the premise, or nice try, or, they'd be kind of encouraging without putting you down, even though you're bombing, right?
Yeah,
and so someone yelled out, really like your shirt, it was a reverse heckle. And he has just come back with that. No, I want to come down to where you work and order a McFuckwit. And it's like, mate, and he lost the audience after that because it was just so over the top for what was said. For sure. You've just got to read the room.
Now, my mum inadvertently heckled you. Apparently.
Really?
Yeah, apparently you were doing a show here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
You know my mum.
She doesn't work at McDonald's anymore. She doesn't work at McDonald's anymore, so
that's
you can't
right.
use that one.
Yeah, but she's a McFuck. Nah, she's listening to the show. She's a lovely lady.
She does listen to every show.
She listens to every show. Now, you were making a...
Where was I performing?
I can't remember. It was in Melbourne. I can't remember. She didn't tell me, but you were doing something on anaphylactic response.
Oh, yeah.
And...
So I'm anaphylactic.
So am I. Yeah.
Okay.
And we should have an EpiPen session.
Have you used it?
Yeah. Have you used it?
Yeah.
It's
Bali.
insane, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's good fun.
Yeah.
I actually sold an EpiPen. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
Yes, you should.
Mum doesn't know, but I sold an EpiPen at a club once for a couple of bucks.
Really?
Yeah, well, it's just pure adrenaline.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was.
At
He
a
was
club?
loving it. At a club.
How much did you sell for?
Really?
$40.
40?
$40.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Hasn't that like
I broke.
I would have bought you two pingers.
Well. That's right. Won't go into that. But apparently she was sitting in the front row, and she just made the connection between myself and you with the anaphylaxis, and she started nodding a ton.
Yeah.
And you looked at her and you were like, I've never had someone agree so much of me. Do you remember this?
I think it was in my comedy festival show.
Yeah, that's right. It was the comedy festival show. Yeah.
At in Acme at Fed Square.
Yeah. And she wanted me to bring up the anaphylaxis. So high five for anaphylaxis.
Yeah, so what are you allergic to?
All nuts.
Yeah,
All
right.
nuts. Yeah. What are you allergic to?
Yeah, no, I can eat almonds now. I discovered, and I think I can eat pine nuts, but the rest of it,
Peanuts?
nah,
No
fuck
good.
No,
How bad are peanuts?
No, they're the worst for me.
They send me off.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I mean, I'm pretty like not lax as in eating them and stuff, but I was at a friend's 40th a few years ago and ate something that was cooked in peanut oil, which is fucking concentrate for
No
us.
good.
And so I was straight to hospital, rang an ambulance, and they took me to the hospital. And so I knew I was okay. I'd been in the hospital for about 3 hours. The doctor came in and he said, look, you've stabilised, but we want to keep you in for another few hours observation. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And when you go into the hospital, they hook you up to a computer system. So they have all the ECG things on your chest and the blood pressure thing around your arm and the pulse thing on your finger. And you can see all your vital signs on a computer screen, right? And so my battery on my phone had died, so I was a little bit bored in there. And I'm looking at the computer screen, and I just think to myself, it's like, I wonder what will happen if I hold my breath, right? So I hold my breath, and after about 30 seconds, everything, like the blood pressure plummets, the oxygen levels drop off, the little heart rate beep beep thing gets like shallower and shallower and shallower.
Yeah.
And then after about a minute, right, way before I thought I was dead, it flatlines, right? So it must project that you're going downhill, so it hits into emergency, right? So it flatlines, just goes beep, and all these alarms start going off, and I'm just like, oh, fucking hell, what have I done?
Yeah.
So people come running in from everywhere, and there's all nurses and stuff, and they run into my ward, and I'm just sitting up, just watching everyone come run towards me, right? And this nurse is at the front, and she just kind of can't work out what's going on. She just goes, what happened? And I was so embarrassed by what I've done, I just go, I don't know. Yeah. So if you're anaphylactic and you're in a hospital, don't hold your breath.
Oh,
So you're
shit.
a wonder of modern science.
Yeah.
The guy died
Come
and
back
he
from the
came, he was
dead.
just chilling.
But
He
he
was
just
sitting there.
spoke to me when he died.
Yeah. But I had to go to hospital in Bali.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in Denpasar.
That's always a harrowing
They
experience.
put nuts in everything, don't they? Not even
Mate.
the food. There's a lot of nuts walking around.
Yeah, I ate a chip. What I thought looked like a chip. This after a wedding, and on one side it looked like a normal chip, and on the other side it was like a nut factory. It was covered in peanuts, and I ate that. And I was in real trouble. That's when I
Yeah.
had the 2 EpiPens.
Oh, I just,
That was scary. That was really scary.
Have you ever eaten like something with nuts in it and gone, this actually tastes amazing?
No, see, I don't like the taste.
Yeah.
I think because when I was a kid and I ate it and I knew that it made me feel sick.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, oh, don't you miss peanut butter? I'm like, not at all.
Nah.
No affiliation.
I get like a little shiver from it, but I remember like this it was like 2013 November, so it was Melbourne Cup night.
Yeah.
I came home and I was relatively pissed.
Yeah.
And Mum had made these like little sausage roll things, and because we'd all got so complacent about it, because I just vomit every time I ate nuts. I wasn't anaphylactic since I was like 2 years old. So I came home, I was like, I need some fucking food, Found these sausage rolls, and I was like, this is pretty good. And I said, hey, Mum, what's in these sausage rolls? They're really nice. She goes, no, don't eat those. They're full of nuts. I said, now you tell me.
Yeah.
So 7 minutes later, the face is swollen up, new Facebook profile picture, 3 days in hospital.
3
Just
days?
straight away 3 days. Because I had two attacks after that because I've got asthma as well.
Yeah,
so it just becomes
I reckon there's a connection.
Oh,
You
there
guys
must
should
be a
hang out
connection.
more.
Yeah, we should.
With your puppets and EpiPens.
That's right.
in our
Hey,
bubbles.
loser.
Yeah.
Hey, square.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not the life. It sucks. But the most cases of anaphylaxis are in Australia.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
No idea.
And I don't know what it is we do to the food, but it'd be great if someone could get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
weird,
it
isn't
sucks for us.
And I accidentally found out I could eat almonds because I ate... Someone had a cake at work one day, and I was like, what is that? And they're like, oh, my God, it's almond meal. And I was like, no, it's okay. I didn't know the taste, but it didn't do anything, and I can eat them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Are you allergic to anything, Bill?
Nah, I'm good to go.
Yep. Just a good time.
Having good times, yep. Good times.
Hero.
Hey, do you want to... Should we go some good, the bad, and the science?
Some GBS.
And then we'll get some change in the parking meter.
Change to the parking meter. Yeah.
Sweet.
Alrighty, so like Doco said before, mate, something good that's happened in the week, something bad, and then something sciencey.
Cool.
Just to change it up. So the good. Olympic swimmer flips off dad before every race. Apparently it was his dad's idea. For a guy who spends a lot of time in the water, Canadian swimmer Santo Condorelli is getting known for his birds. Not the flying kind, but the kind you flip at other people. Ha ha. Before every race, Condorelli, who's age 21, flashes the middle finger at his dad. You know this one.
The old middle finger.
The other- the other middle finger.
Stage,
Yeah, that's true. Now, my question to you guys is, if you could flip one person off before a race or before a comedy festival, who would it be, and why would it be that person? Apart from my mum, she's a lovely lady.
Yeah. Oh, geez, wouldn't it be good to give Tony Abbott the bird?
Oh.
Like so we could see it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just really right up. Because he'd probably be racing next to you
Yeah.
in the red Speedos. Just be like, oh, mate, how's this? Do you think the bird is that bad, though? Like,
It's not that bad,
nah,
really.
you know,
Really.
when you get angry in the car, and you're just like, I just yell shit out. I'd rarely give the bird.
Yeah.
You just go, what are you doing? It's
Isn't
just
it
a finger.
Isn't it funny the things that we do? Like
Yeah, that's right.
thumbs
Here's
up,
the thumb.
like he likes me.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
He likes
yeah.
me.
Well, you know why people put the right hand out, don't you? It's because back in like the Western times, people would show their right hand to show that they
Show they're not
didn't have
armed,
any
yeah.
guns, no
Yeah.
guns. So you put your right hand in it. So maybe
Stab him with the left.
yeah,
Yeah.
just go bang. So like maybe flipping the bird was something like, hey, you're not jumping on this.
There it is. There it is.
There's me bombing.
Rosie the comedian could have looked out for one of his,
That's right.
you know.
Yeah.
Could have given a
No, I
courtesy
was
gag.
I was intrigued.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I was. Yeah, we'll forget
Let's
that.
see how he backs it up.
No, so what you're saying is that you're saying you're not jumping on that. So with all your mates, you just
Well,
you just knuckle down. This is how much I like my boys.
yeah. No, that's, if you can
What
stick
was the
around
new,
that.
Yeah,
what
cool,
was the
yeah.
new word we came up in the last show? The
Knuckle jerk.
No, it wasn't knuckle.
No, it
jerk.
wasn't.
Anyway,
can't remember.
it was another anus knuckle
It's
reference.
like something about the Hamal.
Yeah, good.
All right.
What do you got next, mate?
Oh, I'm giggling. I'm like a little schoolgirl here. All right, the bad. So, Airlander 10, the world's longest aircraft, nicknamed the Flying Bum. The world's longest aircraft was brought out of its hangar in England over the weekend. But the first thing people most noticed about the Airlander 10, besides its enormous size, was that it looked like a huge ass, a huge hamal, a huge chomatz manaloff. And look, there's nothing to add. I just thought I'd bring that up. That's bizarre, isn't it?
Have you got a picture there?
Yes, I do have a picture.
I
seen
always
it.
lose it when you say humble.
Yeah, look at this. This is
I have
bizarre.
seen it. It's like one of those people with weird chins.
Yeah, it's exactly
Yeah.
like someone with a bizarre chin. Look at that. It's so strange. Look at that.
It does look like
It is
an
a giant ass. It's a giant ass.
A mole.
It looks like an old kind of Zeppelin sort of thing. I thought we gave up on those after the Hindenburg.
Yeah. Well, I just don't understand
Double cheek Zeppelin.
how it can be so efficient. Like, this is the coolest new aircraft, and it looks like a Hamal. He hates it when I say Hamal. It's bizarre, but I'm going to have to look into it a little bit more. We'll move on. Let's get into the science now. Okay, this has gone on a slightly more serious note. Are you a man of conspiracy theories?
Not overly, no.
Okay, so...
But you are.
I am a little conspiracy...
You brought that up in our emails.
I did too, that's right, yes. So I thought I'd bring up the moon landing. This is a strange fact about the moon landing, and then we'll talk about some stuff after.
So do you think the moon landing happened?
Oh, I'm on the fence. I know Joe Rogan 100% does not believe in it.
Okay.
And he's got a ton of stuff to back it up. There's a lot of stuff where I just try to look at both sides. So I wouldn't say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I try to, make sure I look at what I've learned from the media and what, main sites tell me, and then maybe what other people say.
Who killed JFK?
JFK, I believe, was killed accidentally by one of his bodyguards who set off a gun accidentally and shot him. Bang. How's that?
Really?
Now, why would they blame it on? Because that bodyguard would just be the most hated person on the
Well, without
planet.
looking into it too much, I don't know. I don't really know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
He was just spinning the gun on the side.
Yeah,
Of the
that's right.
and no one's picked up on that.
And then they just grabbed this poor bloke off the street. Hey, mate, you're...
this guy in the library.
Hey, mate,
With
do you
a
want to see
rifle.
something really cool? Yeah. So, I don't know. But, okay. You would expect that when NASA asks you to be the first man to walk on the moon, that they would consider the possibility of things going terribly wrong. Well, for Neil Armstrong, he couldn't afford the life insurance policy for an astronaut. However, along with Michael Collins and Buzz Aldrin, he wasn't alone. All three astronauts of the Apollo 11 mission decided to create a plan of their own to support their families if something bad was to happen. So, before the Apollo 11 mission in July 1969, when all three astronauts were in pre-launch quarantine, they signed hundreds and hundreds of autographs and sent them to an entrusted friend who was then So what did he do? So, then he sent them to autograph memorabilia to each of the astronauts' families. So that way they could make some sort of money if it all went pear-shaped.
First guy's blown up in space.
Pretty much, yeah.
Cool.
And I guess my question to you guys would be, how much do you think your signature is worth? I know mine. Mine's $4.89. Literally.
What would mine be worth? Like, sweet fuck all.
Yeah.
I'd give you a can of Pepsi for it.
Yeah, see, I don't like Pepsi. So no.
No, good.
I think signatures in general are worth $0.00 across the board.
Why do kids always want to get...
I don't really... It's another thing with like... If I've had... See, we take like a photograph. Mm-hmm. You see people...
Well, that's superseded, hasn't it? Everyone's in the selfie. You don't get an autograph anymore.
Yeah, but even a selfie, like... Say, for example, I was a big fan of yours, Rosie, and I was walking down the street. I'm like, there's Adam Rozenbach. Let's get it. Can we get a photo?
Yeah.
It's I just feel like unless you've had some kind of interaction with that person, the photos, for me, it's very useless.
Yep.
Like I went to the Health and Fitness Expo, and the signatures are the same. To me, it doesn't give me anything that Michael Jordan has put a pen on this bit of art. It doesn't add to my life personally. And it's like, the photo thing's a little bit the same with me. I just don't get it. But having said that, I went to the Health and Fitness Expo a couple of years ago, and my mate was getting photos of everyone.
Yep.
And he just got burnt by Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman's the Mr. Olympia. Mr. Olympia. We went up. Truzzy goes. He walks up to Ronnie Coleman and said, "Hey, Ronnie, can I get a photo, man?" And Ronnie literally looks at him and goes, "Yeah, okay."
Really?
Yeah. And Truzzy looked at me instantly like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And I had this 1,000-pound dumbbell, like a blow-up fake dumbbell. Yeah. And I said, "Hey, Ronnie, why don't you grab that and put it up above your head? Like Ronnie Coleman, 1,000 pounds." And he looks at me and goes, "No, man."
Really?
Yeah. So I'm like, what the fuck? So Truzzy took the photo with Ronnie Coleman, like arm around him, just going, have a look at this jerk.
But he would cop that a lot, surely.
He would. It was the end of the day, whatever. But that happened it was a little bit like that with he took about 4 photos, Truzzy did, with some famous people. And then we walked up to Thor, the mountain from Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
And he was in the back of the strongman area, and he'd just done his workout, and we're like, "Hey, Thor, great work, man. How's it going?" He goes, "Boys, come inside, have a chat, come inside." So we walked in there. Anyway, shook his hand, started chatting with him. We had about a 20-minute conversation with him, and he was the best bloke you'll ever meet. Just a ripper bloke. Truzzy says, "Hey, can you get a photo with me and Thor?" We had another mate. He jumped in the photo with me and Thor, and then we'll walk away. I said, nah, fuck it, I'm getting a photo with Thor. I'm going to get a photo. Like, I genuinely felt like I'd had a good interaction with him.
yeah.
But otherwise, to me, it's very, very useless, and the same as the signature thing.
Well, I think the signature more so than the photo. I don't know. Do you have the same sort of...
Oh, no, I mean, I think the signature in terms of to mark a historic moment, like if you could get like a signed bottle by Lance Armstrong, a bottle of his piss. You know, something like that is worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like if he autographed that, that's going to be worth a shitload. You know what I mean?
Yeah, imagine his dick if you autographed his dick.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
I'd
fake one.
framed it.
Yeah.
Fake
Fake one.
I'd probably just drink his piss and go straight to the gym.
Yeah, you'd be
Put on
feeling
about
pretty good.
14 kilos of muscle.
You wouldn't be anaphylactic anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, well, maybe I would. There's only one in there.
Yeah. But, you know, that's why I mean an autograph to something that is special in, you know, through history is kind of worth a bit more than you getting a photograph next to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
I do.
I agree with that.
See it to some extent. For me, it's just like, you know, when you buy the frames, there's $800 of a frame of, you know, whatever you like.
But you weren't there, though. Like, I think what you're saying adds, correct me if I'm wrong, is like if you got a signature from someone with like a little personal note or something to show that you were...
huge.
Yeah, like if you were really there.
At the baseball, you just hit the home run or whatever. That's
and then old mate
probably
Michael
different,
Jordan
like,
comes
you know,
in and says, hey, keep on playing, Tommy, you know, sign, as opposed to just buying like a picture.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
that'd be
all
cool.
those ones you see where it's not even a signature or they've just signed 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
and done it. Or, you know, like
Just
a footy
a line.
jumper. Yeah, it's just a line.
Just ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway,
What do you got?
that was that was it. That was the GBS. Welcome back to... Oh, hang on. Keep recording. Hey, guys. Hope you enjoy the show. This is the outro to the first part of Adam Rozenbachs.
Yes.
I believe. Yeah. Just after Good, Bad and the Science. Hey, guys, stick around. We actually get into some really cool stuff after as well, so you don't want to miss part 2. This part 1 of Adventure Fit Radio was brought to you by Audible, so please jump onto audibletrial.com/ADVF radio to get your fix of daily information there. We are also sponsored by Adventure Fit Travel. Jump onto the website, guys. The show notes can be found on the podcast link, and please sign up for the mailing list so you can keep up to date with what myself and Bilbo Baggins are doing. And guys, as always, many trips coming up on that one, so stay tuned and we'll be potentially dropping a new one soon. Bye for now.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.